All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling the world of Charlie Munger.
Oh, a fascinating figure.
He is, and he's often in the shadow of Warren Buffett.
Right, right, right.
But we're going to shine a light directly on Munger today.
Yeah, pull him out.
And you've provided us with some great excerpts from Janet Lowe's biography, damn right, Behind the Scenes with Berkshire Hathaway billionaire Charlie Munger.
That's a great book.
It is, and it gives us a real window into his life and philosophy.
I think one of the things that's most striking about Charlie Munger is his personality.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Well, he's known for being this really tough, no-nonsense businessman.
Yeah, like gruff.
Gruff, exactly.
I think the book even uses the phrase ungraceful abruptness to describe him.
But the thing is, he's also incredibly loyal and known for these really deep and lasting friendships.
It's almost like a paradox, right?
Exactly. It's like, how do those two things coexist?
Yeah.
The tough businessman and this really loyal friend.
And it's not just his personality. His whole approach to business, to life, it's kind of an enigma.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he doesn't fit neatly into any box.
It makes you wonder what makes him tick.
Right.
What drives him,
And one of the best examples of this is his relationship with Warren Buffett.
Oh, the dynamic duo.
Yeah, they've been partners for over, what, like 6 decades?
Yeah, it's an incredible partnership.
And, they've obviously had their disagreements over the years, but Buffett says they've never had an actual argument.
Never. Seriously.
It's amazing, right?
I find that so hard to believe.
You'd think with 2 strong personalities like that,
Oh, absolutely.
there'd be some fireworks at some point, but apparently not.
So what's the secret? How do they manage that?
I think it really comes down to mutual respect
Okay.
and a shared understanding of their goals.
They have that shared vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might not always agree on the details,
Right.
but they respect each other's opinions,
Mhm.
and ultimately, they trust each other's judgment.
Trust is key in any partnership.
Oh. Absolutely. It reminds me of that funny story about Munger's phone calls.
Oh, yes. The infamous phone calls.
He'd call someone up and just kind of mumble for a bit.
Just like getting right to it, no small talk.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Ask like one really specific question
Laser focused.
and then hang up.
Just click.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
It's so efficient, though.
It is. It's like he has this superpower to cut through all the noise and get right to the heart of the matter.
That's Munger in a nutshell.
Right.
So let's get to his roots.
Okay.
He's from Omaha, Nebraska, right? The heartland of America.
Sure. True.
Do you think his upbringing in Omaha shaped his values and his approach to life?
That's a good question. And there's actually some debate about how much Omaha really influenced him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like his daughter, Wendy, she believes it had a profound impact.
Okay.
But Warren Buffett, he thinks Munger's just one of a kind.
Regardless of where he came from?
Exactly.
Interesting.
But I will say that Munger himself does seem to hold on to those sort of classic Midwestern values. Oh, absolutely. Hard work, practicality, little bit of skepticism.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's definitely part of his persona.
for sure. And speaking of Midwestern values, we have to talk about the influence of his grandfather.
Oh, yeah. Judge T.C. Munger, a pillar of the community.
Absolutely.
He was known for his strong work ethic and financial conservatism.
And he had to overcome a lot of adversity in his own life.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah, he grew up in poverty
Wow.
and really had to work his way up to achieve success.
And it sounds like he instilled those values in young Charlie.
Oh, definitely.
I love that story about the judge making an error in arithmetic just before he passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And his daughter, Ufi, she said it was God's grace to take him before he made more mistakes.
A bit morbid.
It is a little bit morbid, but it says a lot about the family's character.
Yeah, that dry sense of humor
Exactly.
and those high standards.
It sounds like Charlie, even though he might not have faced the same financial hardships as his grandfather,
Right.
he definitely learned the value of hard work early on.
Oh, for sure. And it's interesting how those early influences can have such a lasting impact.
Yeah, they really shape who we become.
Absolutely. And, he even worked at Buffett and Son.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The grocery store owned by Warren Buffett's family.
No way. What a small world.
Right.
So they were connected even back then.
It's amazing how life works out sometimes.
That is fascinating, but his life did take a darker turn in the 1950s.
Yes, unfortunately.
He went through a divorce, and then tragedy struck when his son, Teddy, was diagnosed with leukemia.
A heartbreaking time.
It is, and the book mentions a story from his friend Rick Guerin about seeing Munger crying in the streets of Pasadena after visiting Teddy in the hospital.
Oh, that's so sad.
It really is. It's hard to imagine someone as stoic as Munger
Yeah.
being so visibly emotional.
It humanizes him,
It does.
It reminds us that Even the most successful, seemingly unemotional people
Yeah.
experience deep pain and grief.
Everyone has their struggles.
Exactly, and it makes his resilience even more remarkable.
Oh, absolutely. After losing Teddy, he remarried Nancy Barry Borthwick,
Right.
blended their families, seemingly found happiness again.
Yeah, it's a testament to his strength.
It is. Do you think those personal struggles shaped his outlook on life?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's likely that facing those challenges head-on instilled in him a sense of perspective and gratitude.
That makes sense.
And it's worth noting that this new family dynamic would actually play a pretty significant role in his later business ventures.
Oh, how so?
Well, we'll get into that, but first, let's talk about Munger, the lawyer,
Okay.
starting to dip his toes into the world of business.
Did he find success right away?
Not exactly.
Oh.
He had a few early ventures, like the transformer manufacturing business with Ed Hoskins,
Okay.
which ultimately didn't pan out.
So he had some bumps in the road.
He did, but even those early failures provided him with valuable lessons about the unpredictable nature of business.
He learned from his mistakes.
Exactly, which is a key trait of successful people.
So did he stick with manufacturing?
Actually, no, he eventually found success in real estate.
Ah, real estate, the classic path to wealth.
Right.
Especially in Southern California where he was.
Yeah, California those days was booming.
Everyone was making money in real estate.
True, but Munger didn't just ride the wave.
Okay.
There's this great story about his friend Otis Booth
Otis Booth. Yeah.
challenging him to put his money where his mouth was.
What do you mean?
Well, Munger was giving Booth all this advice about real estate.
Right.
And Booth basically said, look, if you're so confident in your advice, why don't you invest in this apartment complex with me?
He called his bluff.
He did. He basically shamed Munger into it.
So did Munger cave to the pressure?
He did, and it turned out to be a brilliant move.
Of course it did. It's a California real estate story.
Right.
They always end well.
Almost always. But the story reveals something important about Munger's approach.
What's that?
He's not someone who jumps into things blindly.
Okay.
He's cautious, analytical,
Makes sense.
but once he's convinced, he's all in.
I like that. So he was a calculated risk taker.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the numbers for him.
Oh.
He had this really interesting observation about landscaping.
Landscaping.
Yeah, he believed that good landscaping could actually triple the return on a real estate investment.
Wait, really? Landscaping can triple your returns.
That's what he believed.
I've never thought about it that way.
It shows that he understands the importance of creating value beyond just the bricks and mortar.
Okay, so he's thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly. He sees things that other people might overlook.
That's interesting, but things really started to shift for Munger when he met Warren Buffett.
Ah, yes. The dynamic duo finally comes together.
That feels like a pivotal moment in his story.
Oh, it definitely is.
I can't wait to hear what happens next. Okay, so we've got Munger, the real estate guy, finally meets Warren Buffett.
It was like a meeting of the minds.
Yeah,
They just clicked.
I can imagine.
They both loved investing.
Of course.
And they both just loved to learn.
Those are two important ingredients for success, right?
Oh, absolutely. But what's interesting is that even though they were both successful investors at that point, their approaches were pretty different.
Oh, in what way?
Well, Buffett at that time, he was really into Ben Graham's value investing philosophy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, finding those undervalued stocks.
Right, the bargains.
The hidden gems.
Exactly. But Munger, he was already seeing the limits of that approach.
Oh,
He
interesting.
thought you had to look beyond just the numbers
Okay.
and really focus on the quality of the business itself.
So not just a cheap price, but a good company.
Right. He wasn't interested in those quick flips.
Right.
He wanted companies with long-term potential.
So Munger was already thinking about the long game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a key difference.
It is. So he was advocating for a shift from like bargains to quality.
Yes. And that idea really influenced Buffett.
It did. It became a cornerstone of their investment philosophy.
It did. And I think it's a big part of why Berkshire Hathaway has been so successful.
Makes sense. But, Buffett was so impressed with Munger that he actually encouraged him to leave law
He did.
and focus on investing full time.
That's a big leap of faith.
It is.
Yeah.
Did Munger hesitate at all?
He did initially,
Okay.
but ultimately he took the plunge.
Good for him.
And they co-founded the investment firm Wheeler, Munger and Company.
Okay, so the partnership is official.
It is. But their journey wasn't without its bumps.
Oh, what do you mean?
They faced some challenges early on, particularly with their large holdings in New America Fund and blue chip stamps.
Why were those investments causing problems?
The market just wasn't favoring them at the time.
Okay.
Remember, this is back in the 1960s.
Right.
These investments were considered pretty unconventional.
So they were ahead of their time.
They were. And even though Munger believed that those investments were fundamentally sound,
Yeah.
their value dipped initially.
So they had some paper losses.
They did. And, you know, this is where Munger's character really shines through.
Tell me more.
There's that story about Rick Guerin.
Yeah, his friend and investor.
Right. Guerin needed to cash out his investment.
Okay.
And he estimated it was worth around $200,000.
A decent chunk of change.
It was. But Munger insisted on paying him $300,000.
Wait, he overpaid by $100,000? Why would he do that?
He believed that was the true value of the investment.
Even though the market wasn't reflecting it at the time.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It shows his integrity.
It does.
And his commitment to his partners.
Even if it meant taking a financial hit himself.
Exactly. But you know, those early reported losses in the partnership weighed heavily on Munger.
I can imagine.
It wasn't even about the money.
It was about something else.
It was the emotional burden of disappointing his investors.
That makes sense. He takes it personally.
He does, so he made a radical decision.
What's that?
He decided to stop managing money for others altogether.
Wow. Really?
He realized that his temperament, his aversion to disappointing people,
Yeah.
just wasn't well suited to the pressures of managing other people's money.
Yeah. He knew his strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. And that's a sign of true self-awareness.
So what did this mean for his partnership with Buffett?
Well, it actually paved the way for an even deeper partnership.
Oh, how so?
It freed Munger from the constraints of client expectations
Okay.
and allowed him to focus on building Berkshire Hathaway with Buffett.
Ah, so it was a blessing in disguise.
You could say that.
Okay, but before we jump into Berkshire, there's that whole blue chip stamps saga, right?
Oh, yes. Blue chip stamps.
Wasn't that a major turning point for Munger?
It definitely was.
So for those of us who aren't familiar, what was blue chip stamps all about?
Well, initially it was all about trading stamps.
Trading stamps, like the things you'd get at the grocery store?
Exactly. You'd collect them and redeem them for merchandise.
Oh, yeah, my grandma used to love those.
But the thing is, the trading stamp business was in decline.
Okay.
People were moving away from that system.
So the future of the company looked pretty uncertain.
It did. But Munger and Buffett, they saw an opportunity.
What kind of opportunity?
They acquired a controlling stake in blue chip stamps.
Okay.
And they used it as a vehicle for their investment strategy.
Interesting. So they weren't interested in the trading stamps themselves.
Not really.
They saw something else.
They did. They started diversifying the company's holdings,
Okay.
investing in other sectors with more long-term potential.
So they were essentially turning blue chip stamps into their own mini Berkshire Hathaway.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
It was. They applied the same principles.
Acquiring good businesses, holding for the long term.
Right. And letting those businesses compound their value over time.
The magic of compounding.
It is magical. But they did run into some trouble with blue chip.
What happened?
Well, they faced an antitrust case.
Antitrust. Why?
Their ownership structure was pretty complex.
Okay.
And some regulators thought it might be anti-competitive.
So the government was concerned?
They were.
But Munger and Buffett, they're pretty savvy, right?
Oh, they are. They navigated those legal challenges and came out on top.
That must have been a stressful time.
It was. But it shows their resilience.
It does. And eventually they merged blue chip stamps into Berkshire Hathaway,
They did.
creating a simpler and even more powerful investment platform.
It was a brilliant move.
It was. Speaking of brilliant moves, we can't forget about the See's Candies acquisition.
Oh, See's Candies.
It was a game changer, right?
It was a pivotal moment for both of them.
So what was it about See's Candies that caught their eye?
Well, See's was a beloved brand
Oh, yeah, everyone loves See's.
with a loyal customer base.
And a history of weathering economic downturns.
Exactly. Munger and Buffett, they saw the value in that kind of resilience.
That ability to keep making money even during tough times.
Right. It goes back to those moats we were talking about earlier.
Those durable competitive advantages.
Exactly. See's Candies had a strong moat. Brand loyalty, a reputation for quality.
And efficient operations.
Right. It wasn't just about selling candy.
It was about selling an experience.
Exactly.
A tradition.
Yes. And, the former owner, Chuck Huggins,
Chuck Huggins, yeah.
he actually shared some pretty funny insights into the purchase process.
Oh, what did he say?
Well, he described Buffett as homie
Homie. That's funny.
and Munger as a college professor or a chief justice of the Supreme Court,
Huh. I can totally see that.
right?
And he also said this great line about Munger's tenacity.
Oh, what was it?
He said, If you've ever tried to get Charlie off a position, you're wasting your time.
Oh, that's so true. Once he's made up his mind,
Yeah.
that's it.
He's not budging.
He's not. And the success of See's candies really reinforced the importance of those moats for them.
Those durable competitive advantages.
Right, the things that can protect a business from competition and economic downturns.
So how did the See's Candies experience change their overall investment philosophy?
It pushed them even further away from Ben Graham's pure value investing approach
Okay.
and towards this quality-focused approach.
They were looking for businesses with strong brands, pricing power.
Exactly, the ability to generate consistent cash flow over the long term.
And that led them to Coca-Cola.
It did. One of their most famous and successful investments.
It's amazing how this one candy company had such a ripple effect on their strategy.
It really is.
It shows you the power of learning from your experiences.
Absolutely.
So now we have Munger and Buffett armed with this refined investment philosophy, ready to build Berkshire Hathaway into the powerhouse it is today.
Right.
But it wasn't always smooth sailing, was it? What were some of the challenges they faced?
Well, Berkshire Hathaway itself was originally this struggling New England textile company.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
And for years, Buffett really grappled with what to do with it,
Okay.
while simultaneously making all these other investments.
That's right.
But it was Munger who helped Buffett see Berkshire's true potential.
Oh, how so?
Well, he encouraged Buffett to shift his focus away from simply acquiring undervalued companies
Okay.
and towards building this collection of really high-quality businesses.
With sustainable competitive advantages.
Right. Those moats, again.
Ah, the moat strategy in action.
Exactly. And Berkshire became this amazing platform for deploying capital and building long-term value.
Instead of trying to time the market or make quick trades.
Exactly. They focused on acquiring great businesses and letting those businesses compound their value over time.
And that led to some of their most iconic acquisitions. See's Candies, Coca-Cola, Geico, and countless others.
It's an incredible track record.
It is, but they weren't just acquiring businesses, right? They also faced some pretty intense crises along the way.
They did, like the Salomon Brothers scandal.
Oh, yeah, the Salomon Brothers bond trading scandal?
That was a defining moment for both of them.
It was. So for those of us who aren't familiar with Wall Street scandals, what exactly happened?
Well, Salomon Brothers was this prestigious investment bank,
Okay.
and they got caught up in this illegal trading scheme.
Oh.
Yeah, basically they were manipulating the treasury bond market.
That's a big no-no.
It is. And the government threatened to shut them down.
Wow, so the stakes were high.
They were. The whole financial system was on edge.
So what did Munger and Buffett do?
Well, Munger, he was in Minnesota at the time.
Okay.
He immediately flew to New York to take charge of the situation.
You didn't waste any time.
He knew that decisive action was needed.
To save the company.
Right. And prevent further damage.
I read that Senator Moynihan actually offered his help.
He did.
And Munger basically told him to stay out of it.
He did. He didn't want any political interference.
That's bold. Telling a U.S. senator to back off.
But he knew that it could make the situation worse.
He had to stay focused.
He did. He worked closely with Buffett and their legal team to stabilize the company.
Okay.
Replace some key executives.
Clean house.
Exactly. And ultimately secure a government bailout.
So they saved Salomon Brothers.
They did. They managed to salvage the company.
That's incredible.
It was. And eventually they sold it to Travelers Group for a profit.
So a happy ending.
In a way, yes.
But it was a hard-fought victory.
It definitely was. And it really cemented Munger's reputation as a crisis manager.
Someone you want on your side when things get tough.
Absolutely. But you know, we've talked a lot about business and investing.
We have.
What about Munger's other interests?
Right, he's a philanthropist.
He is. And he's been quite vocal about certain social issues.
Like reproductive rights.
Exactly. He's a longtime supporter of Planned Parenthood.
I remember reading about that protest at Gorat's Steakhouse in Omaha.
Oh, yes. That was quite a scene.
Protesters were calling Buffett and Munger baby killers for their support of Planned Parenthood.
It shows how passionate people are about this issue.
It does, and how divisive it can be.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But Munger's commitment to this cause goes back decades.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he served as a trustee for Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
And he even acted as the chief financial officer for the Los Angeles chapter.
Wow, so he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk.
He is, and Buffett's been a staunch supporter as well.
Oh, yeah, he's been very vocal about his support for reproductive rights.
It's clearly a cause they both deeply believe in.
It is. So we've got Munger, the businessman, the investor, the philanthropist.
Right.
You'd think he might want to relax and enjoy his golden years.
You would.
But then he decides to dive into the newspaper industry.
It does seem like an odd choice.
It does. What was he thinking?
Well, remember, his father was a lawyer for the Omaha World-Herald.
Oh, that's right.
So he had this early exposure to journalism.
Okay, so there's a connection to his past.
There is. But it wasn't just nostalgia.
He saw an opportunity.
He did, in the legal newspaper market in California.
Interesting. So he takes over the Daily Journal Corporation.
He does.
Which owns a bunch of legal newspapers.
Including the flagship Daily Journal and the San Francisco Daily Journal.
Okay, and did he apply his same business acumen to this new venture?
Oh, absolutely. He approached the newspaper business with the same intensity and strategic thinking.
So no surprise there.
He saw the value of a niche market.
Okay.
And he wasn't afraid to compete aggressively.
And there were legal battles too, right? I vaguely remember something about predatory pricing allegations.
Yes, he faced lawsuits alleging that the Daily Journal Corporation was engaging in predatory pricing.
So basically trying to drive out the competition.
Right, by selling their newspapers below cost to gain market share.
And then raise prices once they had a monopoly.
Exactly.
And what was Munger's defense?
He argued that their pricing was fair.
Okay.
And that they were simply operating efficiently.
So he saw it as a legitimate business strategy.
He did. And he saw the lawsuits as attempts by competitors to stifle competition.
So he wasn't backing down from a fight.
He wasn't. And there was even an age discrimination lawsuit.
Oh, wow.
Which Munger vehemently denied.
It sounds like running a newspaper can be just as dramatic as high finance.
It can be.
Yeah.
But despite all those challenges,
Yeah.
Munger remained committed to the newspaper business.
He believed in the importance of journalism.
He did, especially in providing reliable legal news and information.
And he wasn't just a hands-off owner.
Oh no, he was very involved in the operations.
I even read that he helped design the Daily Journal's website.
He did. He's very detail-oriented.
That got hands in everything.
It seems like it. And in addition to newspapers, he's also dedicated a lot of time and resources to Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Good Samaritan.
His connection to that hospital is very personal.
How so?
His wife was born there,
Okay.
and he even had cataract surgery there.
Oh, that's right, which unfortunately didn't go as planned.
No, he lost sight in one eye.
But even after that experience, he didn't hold any grudges.
He didn't. In fact, he became even more involved.
Really?
Yeah, he became chairman of the board
Wow.
and worked to improve the hospital's financial stability and patient care.
He's really dedicated to that hospital.
He is. He even hired Michael Lika as the CEO,
Michael Lika, yeah.
with the unusual requirement that Lika had to promise he wouldn't quit.
Wait, seriously? He made him promise not to quit?
He did. It's classic Munger.
Always thinking outside the box.
Right. But it also shows his commitment.
It does.
He was in it for the long haul.
He wasn't just writing a check.
No, he was actively involved in trying to make a positive impact.
It shows his dedication to improving healthcare.
It does.
Yeah.
So we've got Munger, the businessman, the investor, the philanthropist, the newspaper mogul, the hospital administrator.
Is there anything this guy can't do?
He's a remarkable individual.
He is, and I think one of his most valuable contributions is his emphasis on education
Oh, absolutely.
and the importance of multidisciplinary learning.
He's a big believer in that.
He's been pretty critical of traditional education, though, hasn't he?
He has. He thinks it's too focused on narrow specializations.
Okay.
He argues that to really understand complex problems, you need to draw on insights from multiple disciplines.
It's that connecting the dots idea.
Exactly. Seeing the bigger picture.
By understanding how different fields of knowledge intersect.
Right. And he famously uses the example of pilot training.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
He thinks pilot training should be a model for other professions.
Okay. How so?
Well, pilots learn a wide range of skills,
Aerodynamics, meteorology, navigation.
all of that. And then they practice those skills constantly in a simulator.
Right.
So they're prepared for any situation.
That's a great analogy. So is he saying we should all be training in simulators?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but he is advocating for a more holistic approach to learning.
I see. More integrated.
Right. Like he believes that understanding psychology is crucial for lawyers,
Okay.
just as understanding accounting is essential for business leaders.
It makes sense when you think about it that way.
It does. And he even suggests reading business periodicals as a way to practice multidisciplinary thinking.
Business periodicals.
Yeah. He sees them as a microcosm of the world.
Okay.
They cover finance, technology, politics, culture.
It's like a crash course in everything.
It is. And by reading them regularly, you're exposed to all these different ideas.
And you start to see the connection.
You do. It's like a mental workout.
Yeah, you're flexing those intellectual muscles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Munger doesn't just talk about education. He embodies it.
He's a lifelong learner.
He is. He's always seeking out new knowledge.
I've heard he's a voracious reader.
He is. Books on history, science, biography, philosophy.
You name it, he's read it.
Probably. He believes that knowledge is power.
And the more you learn.
The better equipped you are to navigate life.
And one of his most intriguing ideas is this concept of the Lollapalooza effect.
Oh, yes. The Lollapalooza effect.
Can you explain what that is and why it's so important?
Well, the Lollapalooza effect describes how the combination of multiple forces can create these extraordinary outcomes.
Okay.
Both positive and negative.
So it's not just about one factor.
Right.
It's about how different factors interact and amplify each other.
Exactly. He uses Coca-Cola as a prime example.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. He argues that Coke's phenomenal success isn't just due to one thing.
Okay.
It's a confluence of factors.
Lollapalooza forces.
Exactly.
Like what are some of those forces?
Well, there's the addictive nature of sugar and caffeine.
Okay, everyone loves sugar.
Right. And then there's the appealing brand name and logo.
The iconic red and white.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the clever advertising.
Associating Coke with happiness and good times.
Right. And then the global distribution network.
Making it available everywhere.
Exactly. All those factors combine to create this incredibly powerful appeal.
It's like a perfect storm of marketing and psychology.
It is. And Munger, he's actually quite critical of academia for not adequately addressing this phenomenon.
Oh, interesting.
He thinks too much emphasis is placed on studying individual psychological biases
Okay.
in isolation.
Rather than understanding how those biases interact and combine.
Exactly.
So he's advocating for a more integrated approach to understanding human behavior.
He is. One that takes into account all those complex interacting forces.
I see. So this Lollapalooza effect, it seems like it could be applied to all sorts of things.
It can. Business success, social movement, political campaigns.
Even personal decisions.
Right. It's a lens through which we can view the world.
Recognizing that things are rarely driven by just one factor.
Exactly. It's about understanding all those interconnected forces.
And how they shape outcomes.
Absolutely.
So what does this mean for our listener? How can they apply this concept to their own lives?
Well, I think it encourages us to look for those situations where multiple forces are combining
Okay.
to create these extraordinary outcomes.
In our careers, our relationships.
Our investments, even our personal habits.
By recognizing the Lollapalooza effect at play.
We can make more informed decisions.
And potentially achieve greater success.
Exactly.
It's like having a secret weapon.
Right.
A way to decode the world and understand how things really work.
And Munger, with his unique blend of intellect and experience.
And wit.
Oh, yes, and wit. He's the perfect guide to help us navigate this complex landscape.
He really is. You know, it's amazing when you think about all the different things Munger has done in his life.
It is like he's this force of nature.
He really is, from law to business to investing, philanthropy.
Newspapers, hospitals.
It's like he doesn't shy away from any challenge.
He just dives right in.
He does, and I think throughout all those different things, there's this consistent thread.
Oh, what's that?
His commitment to rationality,
Okay.
his pursuit of knowledge, and his willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
He's definitely not afraid to go against the grain.
He's not. And speaking of challenging conventional wisdom, he's certainly not afraid to speak his mind.
That's for sure, whether he's criticizing the savings and loan industry or advocating for reproductive rights or pushing for a more multidisciplinary approach to education.
Yeah, he's not one to mince words.
He's not, and he's got that sharp wit.
And colorful language.
Oh, yes. Remember that quote about mixing raisins with turds?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic Mungerism.
It is. It's a great example of how he can take a complex idea
Yeah.
and make it memorable.
With a simple analogy.
Right. Even if it's a little off-putting.
A little bit, but it sticks with you.
It does. That's the point.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Charlie Munger,
Okay.
what are some key takeaways you hope our listener will walk away with?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is the importance of continuous learning.
Yeah, never stop learning.
Never stop. And seek out diverse sources of knowledge.
Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. Explore new fields. challenge your own beliefs.
Munger is a great example of that.
He is. He's constantly expanding his horizons.
And remember that idea of the Lollapalooza effect?
Oh, yes. The Lollapalooza effect.
It's such a powerful tool for understanding how the world works.
It is. It's about recognizing how different forces interact and amplify each other.
To create these extraordinary outcomes.
Right. It could be in your career, your relationships, your investment.
Even your personal habits.
Exactly. So be on the lookout for those Lollapalooza moments.
And don't forget Munger's iron prescription for overcoming adversity.
Oh, yes. That's a good one.
He says, every time you think some person or some unfairness is ruining your life, it is you who are ruining your life.
It's a tough love message.
It is, but it's a powerful reminder that we have control over our own destinies.
We do. We can choose to focus on the positive.
And overcome those challenges.
Exactly. So there you have it, a glimpse into the mind of Charlie Munger.
A man who has lived a life of incredible achievement, intellectual curiosity, and unwavering principles.
He's a true original.
He is, and we hope this deep dive has inspired you to think differently, to embrace the power of multidisciplinary learning,
And to approach life with that same sense of rationality and humor.
and a relentless pursuit of knowledge.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of your own understanding.
You never know what you might discover.